Hello, I made 6 games in 6 months and finished none of them. So what happened? In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly why I kept starting games and why I couldn't finish any of them. I'll show you the projects, where they fell apart, and what I learned the hard way about being an indie dev. So this is my very first game. This is the one that I used to kind of learn the Godot engine and figure things out. It doesn't work, and I don't feel like fixing it, but the reason I'm showing you guys is because I want you to see that not everyone's first game is all glam. Mine doesn't even work. So let's move on to my first actual game. So for my first actual game, my idea was to mash together The Binding of Isaac, Nuclear Throne, and Enter the Gungeon. I wanted something that had the insane item combination that Isaac had, as well as the complete screen-shaking chaos of Nuclear Throne, and the overall visual polish of Enter the Gungeon. And this is what I came up with. I'll let you feast your eyes for a moment.
It's so bad.
Now, this might look like complete trash, and it is, but it actually has procedural dungeon generation. Every time you run the game, the dungeon layout is different. And some of the enemies have actual attacks. Okay, so now let's take that entire game that I just made and throw it in the trash. The Moons Will Fall is what I called this next game. As you can see, pretty big visual change from the last game. I made animations for pretty much everything that you see here. I also designed the walls and the floor. There are also a lot of assets that I bought as well. For example, the enemies, I didn't make the enemies, I kind of took assets I paid for or found for free online and kind of edited them and made them nice. So this is the Shopkeeper here. I kind of got inspiration from Spelunky. I love this. I love the idea of trying to kill the shopkeeper to steal his loot. For some reason in this clip though, I just walked away. Oh, and then this guy's just exploded here and he's broken this rock. And actually that brings up one of the biggest things, the problems that I ran into this game was the enemy pathfinding with destructible terrain. I couldn't use Godot's built-in navigation because it didn't allow for objects to be added and removed into the scene live. It had to be baked, and maybe I'm completely wrong here. Maybe I couldn't figure it out, but this took me a long time to solve. And what I ended up doing was I matched Godot's tile map system up with the A-star pathfinding. So when a tile map on a rock is changed, it also updates the A-star grid as well to fix the pathfinding. So I know most of you guys won't care about that, but for the one person that's dealing with that problem in their game right now, that's how I did it. So this is the final state of The Moons Will Fall. I decided to make all the rooms a little bit bigger, much bigger actually, and I changed the player art up, and this actually took a really long time to do, and I think it was a waste of time, and I don't even know if it's much better than the other one. But this version of the game, you can actually play on itch.io. I'll leave a link in the description. Yeah, but that's pretty much all for this game. Alright, so this game's called Boopy's Blastathon. I might have got a little bit carried away with the name there, but what can you do? Your goal is to pop the numbers, and when you pop a number, you get that value stored in your bank. You're trying to hit a certain quota every single round. If you miss the quota, you lose health. Every 3 rounds, you get to spend your gold at Nub Stuff. He's got various items, goofy ones, pickles, lawnmowers, bowls of soup, you name it, he's got it. Every 6 rounds, you get a little bit of a boss round where there's double the enemies on screen. Boom, bought some tires. This transition thing here, by the way, took me way too long. Not worth it. Anyways, let's speed things up here a little bit. Now, quick question for the fans out there in the crowd. Can anybody see a problem building up, forming here? Anybody see a problem with the game? And in the dumpster with this game. Oh man, Cost of Orbit is what I called this game. And does this game ever have aura? I liked the idea of combining an FTL game with Starbound, with a quota system. And basically you're a rogue on the run and you owe a bounty to your mob boss. And you get that bounty by visiting planets and mining the planets for their resources. You can also use the money that you get from the planets to upgrade your gun. You can change your bullets, you can buy bombs, you can buy glow sticks, you can turn it into a shotgun, you can turn it into a rifle, but at the start of the game it starts as like a pretty sucky pistol here. So this game is actually where I had to start thinking about performance. Every time you travel to a new planet, the game has to generate an entire Earth tile base set underneath you. And because I was still new to games, I decided to make every single tile its own static body, with its own sounds, scripts, everything. So this became very inefficient when trying to generate very deep and large planets to explore. This game was really fun to make though. The atmosphere, noises of the cave, the drips coming off the stalactites, stalagmites, whatever. I really enjoyed making this one, and thinking about like ideas to add new weapons, new ores, new depths, new planet biomes, all that kind of stuff was super fun to kind of explore. Now, as you can see here in the top right, we got a timer counting down, and that's the police force. I never came up with an official name for them, but once you're on a planet, your presence is made aware to them, and you have a certain amount of time to get as much ore as you want, and then to beam back to your ship. Now, you can only beam back to your ship if you have a clear path above your head. So you have to be careful with how deep you are and how far gone you've gone. So the police force will come down in these drill pods, and they'll spawn at the very top of the map, and they'll drill their way down all the way until they're right near where the player is. These drill pods will release enemies out of them, but they'll also provide a clear path to the surface so you can escape if you need to, because things, as you kill enemies and as you stay down here, their presence really ramps up. So here, we're going back to our ship. We're going to spend some of our hard-earned cash. This game was never balanced, so, I mean, like the amount of money I have is probably excessive for the first planet, but what can you do? And there we go. Now we're cooking. Now we're breaking blocks like they're nothing. Now, you can't really tell from the current footage, but the map actually goes pretty deep, and each layer gets harder and harder to break, requiring you to have better bullets and better guns. So this game had way more mechanics to program. The ship flying from planet to planet, the item system, the map system, the procedural generation of the worlds and the tiles and the layers, the mine shafts, the dungeons, the random objects in the world, like the stalactites and the barrels. This game was way more mechanically intense than the first game, but I still think I learned a lot, and it turned out really nice. So why did I stop making this game? I think it's a mixture of things. I think that the procedural generation of the worlds became very overbearing. Like balancing the mines and the different cave types and the ore clusters and stuff, just it took a lot to kind of get those things right, and it was frustrating to try to make things look good when they're all procedural every single time. I also think I was starting to get tired of working in 2D because, man, you had to make a lot of
assets. Like I feel like 2D games, they need so much more content, like things to do than in 3D games. Because 3D games are visual and immersive, but 2D games, you need content to keep you immersed. At least that's kind of what I've noticed. So, speaking of 3D, let's make this game 3D.
All right, so this game didn't really have an official name, but I called it Cost of Orbit 3D.
Okay, so how does the game work? You start on the ship, same idea. You're a rogue, you have a quota you have to meet. Here we have the map, we have different planets we can fly to. Right now it's kind of a mess because this game never really came to a nice polished state. You can select the planets, you can travel to them, and then you can hop into the pod and launch down to the planet. There's 3 different planets that I made. There's this lava one, there's an ice one, and then there's like a grassy earth one as well. Each planet is different size, different mountain layout, different water types. I only ever made one enemy, and it's a pill, because I kind of gave up on modeling. You can hear them shooting the bottom of the ship there. But I'm going to go grab my sniper here and hit some shots, so watch these clips.
My initial idea for the game was to take the original Cost of Orbit and straight transform it into a 3D game. But I kind of, as I was making it, realized that destructible meshes were something that were a little bit above my pay grade.
So then my idea for the game changed from mining for gold to stealing gold from various factions and groups of people that lived on the different planets. Over time, I wanted the factions to sort of build an awareness to you, like you are now a known thug in the area. I also wanted to add the police to this game too, but unfortunately this game got super complex with the gravity. Making everything like spin and orientate itself properly to the surface of the planet when you're like under the planet, on the side of the planet, man, things got really complicated in the code because I was manually having to do all the gravity and physics and stuff. So things got pretty complicated pretty quickly, and procedural planets as well, procedural buildings. There's a lot of mechanics involved in making this game that kind of sucked the fun out of it.
This is the one game that I've made, though, that I would honestly love to see become real. Like the idea of flying your ship from planet to planet, escaping the cops, dropping down onto them, taking loot, finding weapons, finding jewels and gems, with your buddies too. The multiplayer works, by the way. I got that working. That took a long time to sync everything up, but yeah, man, this game makes me sad looking back on it because there's so much potential here that I feel like maybe one day I'll come back to it and I'll have to redo it from the ground up. Yeah, I'm just gonna let some gameplay roll of this one here because I think this one's pretty cool to see the player jump above the planet and look back at the ship, and this one, yeah, it's really cool.
In this game, you and your friends play as elite monster hunting mercenaries that have been called to check out the recent breach inside of Facility 7. Before your team can land in the remote Arctic environment, a helicopter unexpectedly crashes due to the weather into the snow. You and your team must find shelter soon. Nighttime is coming, creatures are lurking, and the weather is just getting worse. Facility 7 is an FPS survival horror game that blends the atmospheric tension of SCP games, the brutal survival mechanics of The Long Dark, and the narrative charm and art style of Abiotic Factory. Players must survive the unforgiving Arctic wilderness while confronting otherworldly creatures that have escaped from a secret research facility. Players will then later enter the facility to figure out what is going on. As the player explores the environment, they'll pick up clues and hints and meet characters along the way that'll hint as to how the breach occurred and why they were called to be here. The player's main objective is to enter the vault. However, there's something blocking their path. The player must find a vehicle or something quick enough to get across the ice lake before the creature can grab them. So there you have it. 6 games over 6 months, and none of them completed. So overall, what happened? I fell into a cycle every solo dev knows. Big dreams, midway burnout, new idea, and repeat it. But honestly, making 6 unfinished games taught me more than finishing one over-polished game ever could. I learned what excites me, what burns me out. I got better at scoping, better at systems, better at starting, and maybe next time I'll be better at finishing. If you're a dev and you're stuck, don't beat yourself up. Just keep building. Even your unfinished games are leveling you up. Thanks for watching. If you want to see me actually finish one of these, just let me know, and I'll do my best to come back at it with a fresh perspective and maybe start from the ground up. Thanks.